Hey, everybody, this is Jonah from Festival Advisor, and I'm joined today by the one and only Cristoph, world renowned DJ and producer. Cristoph, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, mate. It's all good.
Yeah, I think we'll just jump right in.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like to discuss when I interview DJs is kind of the beginning of your career. I think from an outside perspective, it's really easy to look at someone like you and say, oh, he released that EP on Defected, or he put that EP out with Knee Deep. It all broke for them. That's when it took off. I think we know that it takes a lot more work than that. You were probably playing shows before anyone knew you. So to start, it's kind of two parts. Can you touch on, what that grind was like before you had your first real major track signed? And then secondly, I think a lot of your fans might not be aware that you were somewhat of a Defected mainstay in the first, couple of years of your career. If you could touch on what it was like running with that crew and what your sound was like back then.
Of course, mate. I mean, the grind, I've DJed for as long as I can remember, to be honest with you. My older brother was a DJ, my dad was a DJ, so it's kind of been in the family as such. And ever since I was younger, I used to play football and stuff like that. But whenever the question was given to you when you're growing up, kind of what do you want to be when you're older, I always used to say DJ, but actually knew nothing about how to become a DJ. It just looked like it's an amazing place to be and to get out there and play music. I mean, as I say, my older brother was a DJ and he used to make me like CDs and things for school. So everyone would be coming in listening to the latest pop song, Britney Spears or whatever. And I was listening to like underground house from the age of like 6, 7 years of age. Do you know what I mean? Wow. So it's kind of been embedded into me all the way through. So, I mean, it's always been a dream. But as I got older, I really took in what needed to be done to break through and become a DJ and stuff. And once you actually realise how much hard work is involved in the background of it and trying to break through and trying to get people just to listen to your music, sitting there watching tutorials, teaching yourself everything when it comes down to production, because predominantly you do need to produce music in order to become a DJ nowadays. There is very few DJs out there who are just DJs and that's all they do, that they don't write music or they don't work with someone or something like that. And so I really wanted to get into that. Now, I've never, ever done music at school or anything, so I had to sit there and teach myself everything I could musically and stuff and teach myself what goes with what and then and go on from there. And then, luckily enough, I used to write music under a name, Costigan, which is my real name. And I think it was really early on that my music got picked up, but I used to try and be just like Eric Prydz. And it was never, ever going to get me anywhere because you're kind of copying your idol and, you've got to try and make your own stamp on the industry and you've got to produce, it's all good taking influences from elsewhere, but a carbon copy of somebody else's track isn't going to get you very far. So I looked at what was going on in the industry and what was taken off, and it was this tech house sound, which is still around and it's not me. But I thought to myself, I can make that music, but if I just try and twist it and have a little bit of a melodic side to it, whether it be a more of a progressive stab in there or the use of a rolling vocal to try and drive the track on, to keep it away from generic tech side, at least I can then progress the music into more progressive and melodic music, which is where my heart is at. So it became more of a business plan. And then my manager at the time, because I got picked up really early by a manager, sent him a record which wasn't say too late, and he wanted it. He also had an agency and a manager, so it was quite weird how he wanted to sign the record. Then he wanted to sign me as an artist. Like, was literally happened overnight. So he sent these music off to Defected, and then was setting up the little sister imprint DFTD. And I thought to myself, once I had listened to it, maybe give yourself 2 or 3 years, because you do have to be realistic in this world. There's plenty of people up above there who are more interested to a kind of major label rather than this young guy coming through who no one's got a clue about. And they seem to really get my music. and instantly was signed across to there, and then we're just itching for more. And I was doing gigs and playing music at the gigs, and every Defected gig, they record your set and then go back through it, and they ask you about tracks which they've never heard, and then a lot of them were my own, so they started signing more. So before you knew it, I had 2 or 3 EPs signed there, and they were going on. But then as the gigs went on and I was trying to become more of my own artist, I started playing a bit more into the progressive world at the sets, and it just wasn't suited to Defected. So I kind of switched over and left Defected as such. But by this time, it was kind of the Knee Deep and Sound camp were really starting to support my music. So I started getting into their fan base, and it went on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's really interesting. And, I appreciate that you say that, because, it's like you were doing whatever you could to kind of break through, and it took some time. And then once you did it, you felt like, now I can go in that artistic direction and I want to go there. You mentioned Knee Deep in Sound. It's like, I was digging through your Instagram and I'm seeing these bills that you're on in 2015 with like MK and Sam Divine. And, if you told anyone now that like those are the parties you're playing, they'd probably be surprised. But it seems like around 2015, you start putting out this, the Let It Go EP and 8-track, and total switch into what people really know you for now. Who was influencing you at the time, and, how did you connect with Hot Since 82? And, it felt like that was kind of this foundational part of your career. When during this time did you feel like, I can actually do this? I might make it.
Influence-wise, mate, I've always been on to Sasha, Digweed, Solomon, obviously Eric Prydz. Hot Since 82's a great UK guy who, like, his early stuff was just magic. I'm obsessed with it. Like all the textures in there and these tracks are just amazing. The list is endless in that progressive world, but it's kind of, I couldn't quite jump straight from the more techie side into the prog world. So as I said to you before, it was a business plan trying to get all the way through and pick people up on the way. Daly supported a really early track of mine called Guffers, and I literally made it, walked out the house, I'd had the download link, and my friend who was in the house where my studio was, he said, why don't you send it over to Hot Since 82? He could play that. So I tweeted him, I inboxed him, I think it was, and I said, I think I've got a track you would play, just on the pretense he may pick up this tweet and get back to me. And at the time, like the social media didn't decipher between people who followed you and people who didn't. So everything went into one inbox. And he must have literally been on his phone at that time. And he replied saying, send me it. And I sent it over, got in the car, drove to the gym, which is 5 minutes away. And he replied, and he was just like, send me every record that you do. And it went from there. Again, it was a bit of a lucky moment. And as I say, Daly started really supporting more and more of my stuff. I started going to his shows to meet him and met his management, and we had a bit of a conversation. And then took over my management type of thing, and that's when they started offering me things like the 8-track and stuff like that. And that there was a kind of a project where I could really start to express who I really am, because it was just write this piece of music from scratch. And it was a kind of it was a small little album project for me to do, really. And it just kind of went from there. And as I say, I could really express myself, and it's great to have Daly's support from the start. It really was, because that really, really helped us. And then once you start getting the support from your peers, it then makes you believe I may actually have a shot of breaking through here. But I still to this day, when people ask me questions about being out there and doing that, I look at it as work. I'm very privileged to be able to call my dream my job. And that's all I look at it as, to be honest with you.
That's amazing. The recognition from peers, I really want to get into this. And obviously you mentioned him in the start as, you're trying to copy Eric Prydz, and that's who was a main inspiration. I'm sure, back in the 2013 or whatever it was, you didn't think that you'd be opening for Eric, you know, on the biggest stages across the world.
Yeah.
It really, you know, I think it really brought you into an international audience. I'm sure for the most part, you were probably playing a lot in Europe and Ibiza, and then Eric just blows everything up. Again, you know, kind of multi-part question here, but what was that initial kind of meeting like? Did he reach out to you? Did you run into him at a show? And then just his influence on you, you know, what were some of the first tracks of his that you were listening to? And kind of lastly, and I'd really love to get into this in a deep way, like you've opened for him, you know, whether it's Output in Brooklyn or the Hollow Show or Steel Yard or Tomorrowland, like you're the guy. And I think it's a privilege that, you know, you recognize and you don't take for granted. And I think it became almost a rite of passage for this Eric Prydz fan base. It's like, oh, is Cristoph opening? Like, we need to make sure we see Cristoph opening. And, you know, for him, for someone of that stature to trust you with those duties is obviously a big responsibility. So, you know, how do you treat those sets differently from when you're headlining? And, you know, what did you learn from him just in regards to the kind of live performance side?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Eric's been a hero from the start type of thing. So back here in Newcastle, I would always be back, and I've always DJed around the city centre and things. So we would go on after parties and I'd play there. And I would tell everyone that I would, like, I was more of a meet Eric Prydz rather than play alongside him. And obviously, this small little place in Northern England, people are going to be, oh, of course you're going to meet Eric Prydz. You know, it's not our world type of thing.
Yeah.
But I used to say it that much that for some reason I started believing for someday it would happen. And then the actual meeting of him, I'd seen that he'd supported Katsy from 8-Track on one of his epic radio shows. And a lot of people who are huge fans back here, he's got a massive fan base in Newcastle. So all them were texting, have you seen he's played your track on the show and things? And I think I was on tour. And I had a look, I was like, oh, that's great. And I just tweeted saying, oh, like, thanks for Eric to support the track and stuff. And I was meant to be playing LA at the start of an American tour. And I think on the flight over, the gig got cancelled because the week before there was trouble in the nightclub and the night just got scrapped. I think there was 2 gangs or 2 sets of guys fighting or something in the club. So I didn't know anything of it. So this was, I think it was a Monday night or something I was meant to be playing in Sound. I think the night was called Monday Social or something like that. And it got scrapped. So I was stuck in LA for a few days, went and toured America for 2.5, 3 weeks. And then the last gig was in Chicago on a Saturday night. And my management at the time rang and said, you've got a chance to go and warm up for Eric at the charity shows for James Lillo. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. And they said, but you've got to pay for your own flight from Chicago to LA. You've got to pay for your accommodation there, and then you've got to pay for a new flight to come home. We're just telling you, because we know Eric's your hero. So I was like, there's no question about it. Let's go, get the flights booked, get the hotel booked, I'm going. So I went across there. Obviously, I don't know if you've been to Sound in LA. It's only a small DJ booth. Eric walks in. My hands are like that because he stood behind us. I'm trying to mix. And so I thought the only way I'm going to engage in any sort of conversation, because I'm not a confident person, is by playing Katsy. So I played Katsy, and Eric supposedly turned to Rene, who's his tour manager, and said, I can't believe he's played this track. I wanted to play it. And Rene was like, that's Chris. So then Eric was kind of, is this your track? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I fucking love it, everything like that. And then we started speaking. So then I spoke to Rene, and they were doing Epic 5 in London that summer. And he said, what you doing that weekend? And I said, it's a bank holiday weekend in the UK. I hope I'm DJing. He said, if you're not DJing, then come along to the show. Then I stood around, I hung out with Rene for a bit, and we got on really well. And then by the time I got home, we got a message through saying Eric wants Chris to play Epic 5. So I was like, okay, then let's get on to it type of thing. And then my management rang back and they were like, I don't know what you've done over there, but he literally wants you to play a load of other shows as well, which one was Space in Miami. then the Factory 93 shows in LA. So I went across there, like seeing them in space, and then went and done the Factory 93 things. And after the second one, it was the end of another long tour of America. So I was quite up for an after party. Eric had his after party the night before. So he was kind of like, I'm not too interested in having another drink. And I was in his ear with one of his friends. So then we got at him loads and he was like, right, fuck it, come back to mine for a bit. And then that's when I sat down with him and started speaking music and realised he was bang into everything. And then he was kind of like, we want you to come on board with Pryda and go from there. And then that's how it went. It's a kind of a whirlwind story. And I remember ringing my mum on the way back, to the airport the following day after being at Eric's. And I was telling her, and I was filling up because it's always been a dream, and it's been mine and my dad's dream, like to build up. And you know, when you believe in something, but something inside of you tells you it's not really going to happen. You know what I mean? It's a bit out there for this to happen. And then these dreams are becoming reality. I just couldn't quite just get my head around it all. So she was just like, it's because you've worked so hard that you're getting like your rewards from it all. And then from there, it's just went to sitting on his tour bus, doing so many shows with him, and actually being able to call him like a really, really good friend. We'll sit and text, we'll sit and have good like laugh when we're on tour and stuff like that. And it's not always music led. And then when you've got to meet him a lot more and speak to him a lot more, the way he holds himself in the industry, like I think that goes above everyone's head. He's so professional. The way he DJs is just magical. And then he's kind of told me to have a bit more self-belief. You know, like I didn't have much of that, and I was always second guessing what to play next. And he's like, trust yourself, you know, like people are there to watch you. They get what you're doing. You've got more fans than you've ever, like, than you think you have. But also, you see a lot of people may run away and miss flights and miss gigs, and that's done professionally. It's great if that's what they want to do, but I actually want to go out there and like kind of make something so my family and friends can be like, that's Chris, that's my son, or that's my brother, or that's my best friend, and be proud of what I'm doing. So you've got to have that side of it. And he is a really, really good mentor, like not musically, just musically, but the way to carry yourself through the industry, to act professional, to be grateful to the promoters who booked you, to be grateful for the people who are supporting your gigs, your music and everything like that. There's a lot to it all, and he's really helped me keep focused through it all.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think he can come off as, you know, a very private person and guarded. And you know, I almost think it's funny because I've been to a handful of these shows and it's always like, what's the ID? Is that the Prince track? Is it from 2016, 2018? You know, pretty much only playing his own music. I guess a quick aside, you know, as you've mentioned, you've done a lot of these and you shared the stage with him on some absolutely massive productions. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's one or a couple of them that really stand out to you, whether it was your personal experience, like your set was amazing because of the crowd, or you were just, you know, so overwhelmed by there's holograms now, there's a giant ball, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, Tomorrowland for that holosphere was just like, sometimes the team keep little secrets. Sometimes I know kind of some of the visuals and things like that, but I mean, that's for Eric and Liam and Mick and everyone to speak about. It's got nothing to do with me. So it's great to go out there as a fan, once I've played, to go into the crowd and experience it that way. So the holosphere at Tomorrowland was absolutely amazing. But I really enjoyed those nights at Output that you mentioned earlier on, and also the three which have just done, the most recent ones in New York. I think, was it like an expo center or something like that?
Yeah, the Bronx Expo Center. Yeah, I was actually there. I was there for a couple of the nights.
Yeah, and I remember on the third night, I thought that all went well. And on the third night, mine and Eric's manager, Mick, took us into a room afterwards and was just absolutely buzzing with how the third night had ran. And I remember being in the middle of the crowd when that hand comes out and he was playing the personal G, and I was like, what? You know what I mean? And I've got a video of it, and I was sending it home to everyone, and everyone at home was like, what the fuck's going on over there? And I was like, it was just the timing from Liam and Ross and everything. It just was just such a perfect show to be a part of. And it was like a total goosebumps moment to see how happy and pleased, because the Pride team are their own worst critics as well, you know, when things don't go slightly to plan. And me as a fan will never pick up on it. But them are like, nah, that was just out of time, or this needs sharpened up and things like that. But that night, there was just no one could pick any bad point or false point with the whole show. It was just something which seemed to just be perfect on every level. So it was an absolute honor to be part of that one.
Wow, yeah, no, those were, you know, I'd seen the videos, and it just doesn't do it justice unless you're in person. And the scale of that venue too, I think, you know, the Bronx Expo Center, it's about like 15,000 people.
Yeah, it was huge.
It's just like, it's really on another level. And obviously they did an incredible job. My last quick question on this, which is going to be an impossible one for you to answer, but I'd like you to do your best, is I'm not going to ask you your favorite Prid song, because I'm sure you just can't answer that question. But right now, what's the favorite song? Or what was the song from him that kind of inspired you back in your early days?
A few years ago, I would have said Rotunda, because just the relentlessness of that record is just amazing. And I remember I spoke to him at Epic 5 about it, and he said he was sat, just keep on putting the I think it was a low pass, a high pass filter on it, and it was, he said, I just sat and listened to it on loop for ages, and I was like, I bet you thought I've got a monster here. But every time I hear it, and I still peck his head about it when I see it, is Mirage. The fatness and the fullness of that track is just ridiculous. When that kick like comes in with the bass, everything just seems to just be perfect on it. And I'm just obsessed with it. It's such a great record. I do love the likes of a line or a lean or whatever you want to pronounce it. That's a great, fun, uplifting record type thing. But Mirage just gets me every single time. And I'm starting to like incorporate that track a lot into my sets and just look at it and just be like, if there's one record I wish I had written, it's that one there. It's just a monster.
It's funny because I think there's almost like a taboo around playing his music, but if anyone has a pass to do it, it's got to be you, right? Like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd approve. Well, you know, you obviously have been handling these duties for a while, and I mean, no one knows but you and Eric what his plans are. I'm sure if he's on tour, you're still involved. But
yeah,
you know, I think in 2018, when you put out "Breathe" with Camel Fat,
yeah,
you know, I feel like that track really resonated with an audience that wasn't just the Prids audience, and you know, kind of as your career has been growing, and you know, it's like, all right, this is the Prids protege, and then you put the song out, and it's like, whoa, you know, certifiable radio hit, #1 song. Kind of two things. One, did you feel like that song changed anything for you career-wise? And then two, you know, the vocalist on that song, Jem Cook, I don't know how many times you've worked with her, but it's been a lot throughout your career. And I feel like some of your most successful tracks have been with her. So, you know, if you could just touch on her as a person, what it's been like to work with her.
No problem. The Breathe track was, I wrote it, I think it was the March 2017. And I was sat on it then, and because I'd used a sample at first as the vocal, and then I sent it on to Jem for an original vocal, and she'd come back with Breathe, and I sent it over to Mick and Eric. And I remember being out for one of my best friend's birthdays, and all sat at a meal, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. And it was Eric and Mick both taking turns, going, this fucking vocal's amazing. And so I needed to change parts of it. And it got to a point where I must have wrote about 10, 12 different versions. And then it was kind of like, right, well, I'll start speaking to Camel Fat because we were doing the high residency. And I said, just want to jump on this record. And then we kind of come up with the whole, which is Breathe Now type of thing. And we've done that above Mambo's in Ibiza, me and Mike and Dave from Camel Fat. So it was good fun. And I think it has helped my career. I think it's really boosted Camel Fat as well. But because them are the lead name on the record, I don't know what it is. I feel like them have got to come up with the next kind of Breathe. Do you know what I mean? And I've been able to be lucky to be sat behind and not have to come up with those huge vocal hits because they don't just happen. I mean, Mike from Camel Fat can just write hit after hit after hit. He's absolutely amazing producer. I don't think I'm a hit writer because it's just not something where my head's at. And it's quite hard to go into the studio and go, right, I need to write another huge vocal record. But it has really, really helped my career without a doubt. You can't deny that, do you know what I mean? And it was an honour to be on the project as well, and great to see so many people enjoy it from across the board. As you say, daytime radio picked up on it. And I think the vocals resonated a lot with people. And I think it's came back around, especially on UK radio. We'll see it on Radio 1. I get these tweets through saying that your record's just been played on Radio 1 and it's two and a bit years old now. And I think it's because of the whole COVID thing that it's kind of resonating once and again. So it's great. It's great to see. As for Gem, it was Defected who put me onto Gem at the start. I'd done a track called Slowly Burning, but that originally was me replaying a Beatles track, which was my sister's favourite Beatles track. And then they got her to do a vocal over the top of the instrumental. And then from there, I said, I'll release it if I can release a dub version of it, which was the original Slowly Burning dub. And then I remixed it recently or re-edited or remade it or whatever. And then that's when Pride Presents put that on. But with me and Gem have worked on quite a few records. She's just doing quite a lot at this moment in time. And I think she's just had a baby as well. So I went off to use some different vocalists while she does her own thing. But it would be great to pick up again with her in the future. She's absolutely amazing. She's such a great girl, great artist to work with and stuff like that. She's funny as well when you send her a record and she's like, ooh, she gets into it on her email replies and she's like, oh yeah, I like this one type of thing. So it's all good.
That's awesome. I think in the last year or two, you just put this track out on Pride. So, I know you're still involved with that camp, but it feels like you've been working pretty hard to carve your own path and, create your own identity. And I know in, I think maybe May of 2019 or around that time, you were going on a solo headline tour. Maybe it was 2020, I guess, which obviously got canceled.
Yeah.
Between the Sweet Disposition remix, your Anjuna Deep stuff, the True Soul, where do you think and where do you want to kind of take your career, right now and in the next couple of years? Where do you see that going? And then also on the live side, I'm curious, obviously, maybe you're a little bit away from holograms, but, is there a way that you want to approach your tour or whenever that's going to be?
Yeah. I mean, for music on labels, I'm quite happy sitting in amongst 5 or 6. Obviously, I think when I released on Anjuna Deep and then with my Essential mix and Pete not mentioning that I was with Eric, I don't know if people thought that me and Eric had then parted ways, and it wasn't the case. It was kind of like Anjuna had been asking for records for quite a few years, and I just wanted to give them the right records instead of just signing anything across. I mean, I'm sat on probably about 200, 300 tracks, which no one will ever get hold of, because I write a certain amount and you can only release a certain amount a year. And the rest of it can just be like either dumped or I'll use as tools or just specifically for sets or something like that. And these records, which Anjuna wanted, Big H 2020 and SFB, then I was like, yeah, cool, take them. True Soul again was when it was the Adam Beer and Ceres D shows. Me and Adam were sat over breakfast and I'd released it. And he said, when are you next doing your True Soul release? Said I'm sat on some records which could probably be suited to them, and I gave them Hawkins and Starport, and then I made Sleepless Nights kind of around the same time we were touring, and it was all about me not being able to sleep because I get home and I'm jet lagged and stuff, and I wrote that and I sent that on to Mick and Eric, and they're like, send that to Adam, I'll guarantee he'll take it. And I text Adam the link to the track saying, this, you might like this one, and he texts back straight away. He was like, can we have it for True Soul? And I was just like, yeah, okay. So that's how then was, and I would go back there, and I just think at this moment in time, the next few releases are with Prider, because we're just trying to build up on that, because you've got the power of Liam doing the assets and stuff like that, the little cool videos and things like that. But going forward, I would love to have my own label and start turning Cristoph more from just a DJ, but into a brand. Then extend out into my own nights and stuff like that. But I'm a firm believer in doing that when it's the right time. And Eric and Mick will allow me to like grow on a platform and not push me into something too early. Mick built Eric up, and then obviously Eric's talent and knowledge as well helped himself. So then we've got the major experience, which they can then pass on to me and allow me to say, right, I think that's probably the best time that you may want to launch a label, or you might want to start your own parties up or something like that. Then the gigs, me and Mick actually had a conversation last week about going forward next year and maybe introducing some sort of production into my shows so you start growing. As you say, it's no good. It's not going to be any sort of hologram. But, you know, maybe one day, why not? Why not try and reach the stars, mate? You know, like your goals are up there. My goals, which I set out with my dad, are up there. They're all personal things which I promised him that I'll reach, and I am determined to get there. I'll give it my best shot. And if it's an extra bit of production with different lights or whatever the team come up with, then brilliant. It makes you look even more of a bigger artist type of thing. And it's just a pleasure to have people actually talking about me in that type of way, to have that belief in me that I am at that standard type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's funny because it's almost become a signifier of like the size of an artist, or like, are they big enough to, you know, does he have production? Are there lasers? Like, what's the LED situation? And it's just funny because I remember like being at that the Output run a couple of years back, and you know, Output is an amazing venue that obviously, you know, it closed down, but from a production perspective, it was pretty minimal. Yeah. And you're in there and then it's like, wait, there's lasers? Like, oh, Eric.
Yeah, I remember when that went on.
And people get so confused and you know, they focus in on it, but you obviously have, you know, gotten a masterclass from that, you know, from the best.
Yeah.
I think, you know, what I just want to finish up with is just a couple of like speed round questions. Obviously, take as much time with them as you want. But first off, is there anyone out there, DJ, vocalist, producer, that you're like dying to get into the studio with that you haven't had the chance to?
I would love to have Tracy Thorne do some vocals on my track. She's the singer from Everything But the Girl. So like missing vocal is my mom's favourite vocal when it comes down to like electronic or house music type of thing. I just think she's got a great voice. I would love to collab with Eric. That would be amazing. But at this moment in time, I'm really just interested in going on with my own stuff, you know, like pushing me forward. There is certain people who I would love to collab with, but I'll get in touch with them at the right time and see if them are up for it type of thing.
Absolutely. Well, kind of in that vein, you know, I know you've played back-to-back with some of the biggest, but is there anyone that would just be a dream come true to play back-to-back with that you haven't yet?
I wouldn't mind going back-to-back with Solomon just to see if I could keep up with him, because he seems to go on for like 2 days or something. Yeah. I'll be like, fucking hell.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he I don't know if maybe it was 2019, he was playing one of those like big tech support gigs in New York, and it was something like a 12 to 7 a.m. set, and my coworker who helps run the club Analog or Quantum, which I actually think you were supposed to play at.
It was.
And he shot me a text. He's like, yo, Solomon's coming over 7 a.m. till the end of the day. I'm just like, how many flash drives does he have?
He's just, did you see the video of him playing in someone's kitchen in Melbourne on an ironing board? Mate, he was meant to be playing there for like 18 hours or something like that, just on an ironing board. And there was just people just, I was like,
I haven't
guy's
seen
a
that,
machine,
but I feel like my Instagram feed every now and then, it's just a video of like Solomon at the private Ibiza villa. And it's like, whose villa is this? Like, how did you get there?
I know exactly what you mean.
That's great. Well, the last one I got is, are there any up-and-comers, you know, smaller artists that you've been listening to recently that you think deserve a shout out?
I'm a big fan of Archie, obviously. Like I've used him for his vocals, but he's a great producer as well. I wouldn't say so much coming through, but again, Frankie Wah, who I used on with the track, the collab on the track with. I think he can be described more than just coming through type of thing. I'm trying to think who else. I get sent so much music, mate, for these Consequence of Society shows, which I do on YouTube, which like premiere them there, and I sit on the chat with everyone and on my SoundCloud and stuff. But a lot of that is kind of like I try and showcase people's music coming through in amongst my own like new IDs and things like that. So there's a lot of people like Cowlam, he's a guy coming through. It's Weedham and something. They're all like Northern England guys as well. I'm trying to think of the name. They'll kill me for forgetting the names as well. I'm trying to think who else is out there. There's a guy called Ads. He's cool, really, really good. ADZ. He used to release years ago on Mousetrap under a different name, and he's come a bit more progressive. Like it was a bit more of a driving like techie sound. It was cool sound, but he's come a bit, and he writes some lovely melodies. He does these things where he bootlegs records, and he sent me one of a Jessie Ware track, and honestly, I can't stop listening to it. It's unbelievable, and he's just got the knack of doing edits and bootlegs of different tracks. He's really, really talented guy, really good. And I think him and a guy called Harry Diamond. Now, I'm sure Harry was part of My Digital Enemy a while ago, and them two are starting to do collabs together. So keep an eye out for them two coming through as well. Like I've got big things predicted for them too as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all I got on my end. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you have anything, obviously,
not a problem.
The single just came out, The World You See. If you have anything else to plug, the floor is yours.
I mean, just drive everyone to buy it off Beatport, please. I'm hoping for my first. Yeah, I love that. It'll be my first ever overall number one. And I just genuinely believe Archie's vocal deserves that, because it's just, I've heard nothing like it in the past few years. That vocal is just unbelievable.
It's a great track. And shout out Frankie Wah making the transition from Tech House over to the big battle.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. Have a great time in Utah, mate.
Thank you.